Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Holsey. I will be the presenter today, and my contact info is on the screen for you. There's also the information there for technical support. So if you have extraction issues, questions about phones, apps, or any issues with the software, the support email is great. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, the agenda for today, we're going to keep this brief, but hopefully informative for everybody. We've made a number of changes to the programs, and I think you'll be happy with the results. You can see the list of developments that we have there that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to move on to the examine developments. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And the first item here is going to be talking about XRY and the user interface. So the extraction interface, we have revamped it. We've made it more efficient, easier to plug a device in, and our auto detect feature recognizes the device that you have much faster, much cleaner than it used to be in the past. So there's a little screenshot here, but I'm actually going to toggle over to the program and I'm going to walk everyone through this. On the home screen of XRY, you can see in the upper right below the blue banner, I'm running version 8.0.1. That's important. Again, always remember that you're running the latest version. And then we always recommend starting a new empty case before you do an extraction. The reason being is that you can organize all your extractions into one, even if you're only doing a single one-off extraction. Create your case folder, because later on, if you want to add extractions to that case, it's easy to do so. It's a glue that holds everything together, and then when it comes time to do analysis, it can be comprehensive across the board, across those extractions in that case. So I'm going ahead and fire up this case ID. I create my case, and it brings me to the case overview page, where I proceed in the lower left with adding an exhibit. Click on OK, and then it presents with this extraction wizard. Right now, I'm going to plug in an iPhone XR, and you're going to see how the auto detect picks it up. In the upper right, there's a little square dialog box here. If I click on that, that kind of shows you our old view, that horizontal dialog box for connecting a device. But for now, what I want to do is show you the new interface. So I'm going to go ahead and plug my device in. And you're going to see it's going to identify as an iPhone XR. It's giving me 4 options. So if XRY can't recognize the exact model number, it's going to give you some suggestions. It knows that it's an XR, but it may be one of these 4 variations. Do your homework, of course. Make sure you know what model number you have in front of you. Once you know that, you can go ahead and click on continue and proceed with the extraction. But all in all, that auto detect capability has been sped up. It's more accurate. It's going to make your life a lot easier. If you plug a device in that we don't have direct support for that model number, in the past, if you plugged in a phone that we didn't have support for, it may have not given you a recommendation, but now it's going to tell you maybe you should use a generic profile. We have a lot of powerful generic profiles covering, thousands of devices, so it could direct you to a generic that's effective for that phone. So I think you'll find that to be a vast improvement. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. And the next slide here is going to be talking about manually searching for devices. So if you don't want to use the auto detect capability and you want to type in the model number, that has also been approved. We're now using Google's search methodology, which I think everyone likes the way Google at least operates on that front, not making sure you're not missing anything if you mistype. So you can see the examples here of what that means. If you type in, the naming of a device in the wrong order, like if you type in Galaxy and then Samsung, it's still going to find the hit on that. If you put in the model number later on, it's still going to find it. If it's cap sensitive, it's not going to get tripped up. If you put things in quotation marks, it does have to identify the exact name or the way that you typed it. You can also eliminate, in that example with the good people in quotation marks, you can eliminate that wording from your search by doing the minus sign and then the quotations. So it's going to make things a lot easier, and you can be assured that you're not missing or mistyping something and not getting a result in the device manual. So I'm going to actually go into XRY, and once again, you're presented with this interface. If I click on the search bar here, you can see I have some recent profiles that I've used in this list. That's a new development as well. That way, if you use the same profile and over, it's kind of going to put it at the top as a reminder. But if I start typing in, let's say S7 and then Galaxy, if I could type correctly, you're going to see that it's going to populate the results even if I'm typing, the order in which I'm typing is incorrect. So hopefully that gives you confidence in the ability to search for a device. It's going to make things more accurate, also going to speed up, your work. So that's important to note. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is the ability to do app downgrades in an Android logical extraction. So hopefully everyone's aware that we can do third-party app downgrades on the latest Android OSs. This is huge. This allows you the ability to not miss data that's critical for your investigation. Because, for example, if Facebook Messenger updates their app today, well, of course, we have to reverse engineer that, and it may take us some time to do so. So what we can do on the device is we can downgrade the application to the version that we could exploit. Then we pull the extraction, and then we restore the app back to the original format. Pretty clear process. It's very forensically sound because we actually store the APK in a subfolder of the extraction. So you're able, if something goes wrong in the restore process, you actually have the APK there and you can push it back to the device. Best practice for mobile forensics, you never want to do an app downgrade first. You want to get a baseline extraction, make sure you do an extraction with no app downgrades, and then if you need to downgrade some applications, then you can do that. So I'm going to walk through the process for our app downgrades. We've changed it so that it actually has step-by-step instructions. It gives you some warnings, gives you some tips and tricks, and then you can actually target which apps you want to downgrade. So let's go ahead and walk through that together in the XRY program. So for this example, I'm going to plug in my Galaxy S8. And you're going to see once again that XRY is going to detect it. So you may see in some cases where if you look at those two profiles, you have a community verified in parentheses at the bottom, and you also have a verified. And you may be wondering what the difference is. Verified means that that device, that specific model number, is in our Stockholm office with our development team. It's on the shelf. If you have that phone in your hand and you have a problem with an extraction, our team, our technical support team, can actually pull that device off of our shelf at our headquarters and troubleshoot with you. And it's actually gone through that profile, that G950U has gone through our rigorous internal tests completely. If it says community verified, it means that another law enforcement entity around the globe has used this profile successfully on that device. And we haven't been able to fully run it through all of our tests, but we've looked at the log files and we've given it a thumbs up and we've added into the manual because we don't want to delay giving you support for devices that are profiles that may work effectively. It takes a while for us to do that, all of our internal tests, so we don't want to hold you up. But rest assured that another law enforcement entity has used it. It's not a private company, it's actually a law enforcement agency, and we have looked at the log files. We just need to run it through some more internal tests to verify everything. But it'll say community verified in that case versus verified. That's the difference. If I choose the verified profile, I can see my extraction options on the right-hand side. Now, this is an important step. It's not always clear to everybody, but these extraction profiles can be edited, and you can actually create your own custom-made extraction profiles. You need to click on the lockbox in the upper right. And if you click on that lockbox, you can see that I can edit the extraction profiles, or I can create my own with this new action. So if I select new action, it actually gives me the ability to create a custom triage profile from scratch. You'll notice on the left-hand side, I have categories of data. I can tell the program to only decode certain categories of data. The great thing here is you're always going to pull a full extraction with XRY. You're never going to leave anything on the table, but you can specify what's decoded. Why would you do that? Because it drastically speeds up the process and how long you have to wait for that phone to dump. So I can change a profile here and actually target specific categories of data if I know that that's where my evidence resides. Or maybe I have consent from a witness and they say, Well, yeah, you can only have this content off my phone, but I'll provide it for the case. It's important to realize how these profiles are created. I'm going to spend some time on this today, but if you need help creating your own specialized profiles, this can be very advantageous. Reach out to me directly. I'm happy to work with you to create some. As far as the app downgrade goes, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cancel this one, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the logical full read options. So the logical full read, you can see that under the finish options, this is the decode steps. We have the ability to, well, turn off decode entirely by clicking on do not auto decode. That'll create a profile. If I just save this right now as no decode, that gives me a powerful profile to use in the field or in a time sensitive situation where I need to dump a phone, but I want to get it done as fast as possible. XRY will extract everything, and then you can give the phone back to whoever needs to get it back. Later on, when you go back to your office and you have more time, then you run the decoders. The decode takes the majority of time. So it's very powerful if you're doing in the field work or any time sensitive situation. Also, under the finish options, you see the ability to generate video thumbnails. Now, this is great for if you're looking through a video, maybe you're working ICAT cases, child exploitation, and you want to make sure that a video doesn't have anything illicit in it. So what you'd want to do, it actually breaks out the video into a gallery view, and it takes 10% increments of the videos and puts it in a nice gallery format for you. So you can actually see what's going on throughout the video, and you can tell that nobody's hiding anything that shouldn't be there. It just saves time. Content recognition is right under that, and that's simply image recognition. So we will put pictures in categories for you, like people, weapons, drugs, and so forth. For the app downgrade, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to look at this bottom section where it says app downgrade prompting. And you can see by default, it says prompt for each app. So it's going to ask me, do you want to downgrade this application? Your system, your XRY, your logical full read profile should automatically have that in there. But I would go in, if I were you, and just make sure that it's turned on. You can see there's an option for always downgrade, which I would not recommend, or never downgrade. You also have the ability to change the Android extraction options. So if you want to just pull the backup and not the agent, so maybe you just want a third-party apps, that's going to be found in the backup. You can actually set a profile where you're just pulling from the backup apps. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and select OK because I do have the prompt for each app for the downgrade. So I'm going to select OK. So I'm going to proceed with that logical full read. And now I'm presented with these step-by-step instructions that have changed in XRY. So it's going to tell me that I can downgrade some applications, and then it's going to give me a warning that it does require a reboot, a restart of the device. If you are doing app downgrades, it's going to restart the device. You want to disable any passcodes or lock screens before you do this. And there's also, some best practice advice there as well. You're presented with the option to downgrade some applications, downgrade all, or downgrade none. So I'm going to select some here. I'm going to go to the next screen. Here's some more warnings, some instructions. Turn off all PIN codes and passwords, how to do that. Put the phone in charge only mode, and then I'm going to proceed. I'm presented now with a list of applications. This is not what's on the device because XRY has not done anything to the device yet. This is a list of applications that we can potentially downgrade. So there's a lot of options in here. For this example, maybe I want to just grab Facebook Messenger and Instagram. Well, if these are the two apps that I want to downgrade and I don't want to do the other ones, then I can go ahead and click on next. And then it's going to take me to my case ID, put in your exhibit ID, your operator, and you can begin extraction. So pretty straightforward, the step-by-step instructions. Hopefully make things clear for you and give you the warnings and the tips. Remember, always do a baseline extraction first before you do any app downgrades. So this slide I have up on my screen now, it tells you that we do store that APK in a subfolder in the directory as the XRY file. So a little bit of assurance, just a reminder there. And then there's a few more notes on what we've improved with the app downgrade process. All of these slides, they are in the release notes. The release notes for XRY version 8 are found on the customer portal right under the download link. Before I move on to the iOS improvements, I'm going to talk about targeting certain apps for decode. So not the app downgrade, but maybe you know that your evidence is sitting in a third-party app, or you have consent from somebody to just grab maybe WhatsApp data. I'm going to show you how to actually do an extraction in XRY where you are only going to be decoding that data. So let's jump back into the program. And this time I'm going to create a new customized profile because there is not one set up by default that will do this. So click on the lockbox, select that new action, and then I'm going to create this profile name, and I'm just going to call it targeted apps. And then under the finish options, I'm going ahead and select the prompt for which apps to decode. That is going to allow me to specify what I want XRY to do. Once again, you're still going to get a full extraction. So if you're missing things from after the decode process, you can go back later and redecode the entire XRY file for the rest of it. But for right now, I want to prompt for which apps to decode. And then maybe all I want to do with the device is I want to grab the backup. I don't want to grab the file system or the agent. The backup is where the third-party apps are stored. So that is the only extraction I want to do right now. This is a good example if you're talking to a witness and they say they only want to give you some messages that they captured that may help your case. So prompt for which apps to decode, just do the backup, and then go ahead and proceed with this. I'm going to create this profile called targeted apps. And once it's finished processing, it's going to put that in my list of profiles to use. So we'll give that a second to fire up. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk about the iOS improvements. This is just kind of a highlight that we wanted to make available to you. The idea that if you put a password on the iTunes backup encryption, if you password enable it, if you enable that, it's actually going to take more time for an extraction. All right, we're trying to give you the option that you can reduce the extraction time of an iOS device via the iTunes backup. So we pull the information from the iTunes backup. The only tool that doesn't is GrayKey, that most of you are aware of. I will say that if you do have GrayKey and you're pulling the entire file system, the backup, the keychain, the memory, you can drop those into XRY for decode. You still need to take a GrayKey extraction into a forensics tool to decode the data. We do a phenomenal job, our iOS decoders. So take that file system in, leave it as a zip file. You don't need to unzip anything in XRY. If you actually search on our device manual, we have a designated GrayKey profile. This little chart here tells you that if you enable the backup encryption, then once again, it takes longer to do the extraction in XRY 8.0, but you are going to recover more artifacts such as the keychain and Apple Health. If you do not enable the backup encryption, you're saving about 33% time, but you're going to be missing out on some of those keychain and Apple Health artifacts. It's your preference. Just be aware that it will take longer, and those are your options. So if you have an iPhone in your hand and if it's unlocked and you want to pull it with XRY, maybe it already has a password on the backup and you don't know what that password is, but you're already into the device. You can reset all settings on the phone. It's not going to manipulate any user data. It's just going to set a reset, some of the formatting on the device. You're not going to lose user data. And then XRY, if you tell it to enable the backup encryption, it's going to set a password to it. I think the default is 1234, and it'll proceed. It's going to get that keychain and Apple Health data for you. There's a little footnote there also for Facebook and Facebook Messenger, just essentially saying that we're back up to par on getting all of the information off of those apps. We have to reverse engineer every new app release because things change from a development side and we have to keep up with it. So that's why we do monthly releases of XRY in order to change the way we handle third-party apps, devices, and so forth. Okay, I'm going to address one question that came through. So this question says, if I have already conducted an extraction by not choosing new empty case, can I take that extraction and transfer it into a new empty case folder? Yes, you absolutely can. So once you create a case folder from the XRY home screen, you can drag and drop XRY files into it. You can remove them or take them, and it's actually logged. So the case folder holds everything together. You're going to see a .xry case extension. That is the glue that holds all the extractions combined. If you remove extractions or add them in, there is actually a log file of what you're doing, which is good because you want forensic integrity for court. And we do a full log trail for extractions, and we also do a full log trail for case management. All right, but yes, you can absolutely create a case folder after the fact and then put a bunch of XRY files under that case folder. Okay, the last slide I have, and then we're going to kind of move into examine, is going to be the end of life announcement. So just keep in mind, Exact is our hex editor that is end of life now. It's been replaced by Examine Elements, which is the Examine program that I'm going to show you today. Elements is just a separate level of the program that you can access. If you have a XRY physical license, you have access to Elements. It's a full hex editor. It's got tons of features, everything Exact had plus some more. So if you guys want to do any manually carving of data with our hex editor and you'd like to learn how we use it, please reach out to me directly. I'm happy to set up a session with one of our engineers and they can walk you through Examine Elements. You see also the notes for XRY Viewer, and then we will stop support for Windows 7 January 14th, 2020. That's in line with Microsoft as well. So they're stopping support. So that's kind of a given there. Just keep those things in mind. All right. So here is what an XRY case folder is going to look like in a Windows path. So you see I have a number of extractions there. And this NARC225.xry case extension, that is the glue that is holding everything together, that XRY case extension. You see the individual .xry files. We have some tokens in there, and we also have a few iPhone extractions. So as you create a case folder in XRY, this is how you're going to see it in Windows. Once you're ready to do the analysis, all I do is double click on the .xry case, and I'm presented with the option to either look at things in XRY, which you would want to do if you did a no decode and you wanted to go back in XRY and redecode something. You can do that, but for the next part of this presentation, we're going to go into Examine. Examine is going to be how you do your analysis. And Examine has changed quite a bit. It's easy to use. I'm happy to set up even more time with you guys later on after this if you want to do a full session on Examine, but I think you'll see it's a pretty intuitive program. So I'm going to choose Examine. I'm going to launch that up. All right, so Examine is firing up. When it does so, you're going to see that the NARC225 case that I have, which is just some example files, so that is highlighted. It's noted by that briefcase icon. On the left-hand side of Examine is my case history or extraction history. I'm just going to kind of close that out. And then what you're looking at in the center column is the NARC225 case folder. All the extractions, numbered exhibits 1 through 5, are included in this case. The artifact information here at the bottom, that's a comprehensive look at all those extractions combined. So you know what was captured. If I want to specifically look at an extraction, so maybe I just want to look at this iPhone X, if you choose that, the artifact information at the bottom changes. Now I'm just looking at that iPhone X extraction. If I want to look at the log file, if you're contacting technical support for an issue and they ask for the log file, you want to choose the individual XRY file, and then you want to go ahead and toggle over to the log here. And now you can see that you can search this log and you can print it, you can save it as a PDF, and you can email it to our support team. The case folder, if I highlight that once again, it does have a log file as well. As I mentioned, it's going to tell you if an XRY extraction was added or removed from the case. It's going to manage everything for you. On the right-hand side of Examine, you have quick views. One of the changes that we've made in the newest Examine 4.3 is going to be adding a quick view for passwords. So these quick views are a nice, easy way to launch into certain criteria based on what you need. So if you want to look at just pictures, we have a quick view for pictures that opens up everything in the gallery view. And then we have, if you want to see last week of activity on those devices and extractions, we have a quick view for that. These quick view, you're going to see that a lot of these are set up here by default. You can manage these though. I'm going to show you how to remove quick views or add your own quick views based on your own search criteria. And if you have a certain way of doing your work and you want to save it so you don't have to recreate the wheel every time, you can actually create and save your own quick views. And you can share quick views with other users. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and click on passwords right now. And I'm going to launch over and into those passwords across those extractions. I'm hoping that everyone's used Examine, but if you haven't, I'll kind of go over real quick the basics of how the program operates. You're going to see that on the left-hand side, we have filtering. We have a lot of filters that are available for you. So starting from the upper left, I have a text filter where I can start typing in a name of a suspect or something of interest to me, and it'll search across all the extractions for that information. I have categories as filters. These are color-coded. I have tags. Once you start tagging items, I have a time filter, And then right now you can see that I've actually applied that passwords filter. So this quick view, I immediately launched into the passwords. You can see in the middle column, I have 4 artifacts that have passwords. If I click on one of those, you can see the details, the metadata pane on the right-hand side. So this password for the private photo vault is 9876. This is just an easy way to go into that critical information if you need the passwords for accounts. The quick views are on the very upper left. If I drop down from this menu, you can see that I can immediately jump to those quick views. So if I want to jump over to a gallery view of the pictures, I select that quick view and immediately it changes to the gallery view and it's going to show me all of my pictures. And immediately it's going to sort the pictures by file size, putting in the largest pictures at the top of my list so that, you know, those stock images that we talked about, it's putting them at the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to do a couple of examples of filtering so that everyone gets used to this. If you noticed before, when I applied this passwords quick view, that one of the new features in Examine is dynamic artifact counting. So it is going to tell you where those passwords are residing on the device, those extractions. So you can see I have 2 artifacts in the device under network information, under iOS Apple networks. So you can just drop down the arrow to see where this fits. I have 2 artifacts under security that are found within these 2 accounts. So dynamic artifact counting, it's going to help you a lot because when you're applying filters and searches across evidence, it's going to show you where these artifacts are sitting, so you know where you're capturing everything from. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out of this tab, this passwords quick view, go back to the start screen. And this time I'm going to actually open up all artifacts. That's a quick view on the right. All artifacts is not going to apply any filters. It's just going to give me everything. I'm going to do a few examples that I think is going to help make your life easier. So one of the time filters on the left-hand side, we've released the update to Examine to include this set custom time field. Now that we've always had this field, but it's kind of been hidden. It's kind of been in this 3 dots next to time where it says edit filter, and then you can actually edit a date and time range. So you know that an incident happened at a certain time. You want to apply those filters. Maybe you have a warrant or a judge saying you can only extract data or look at data from this date and time range. Well, this is how you would apply those filters. We've created this set custom time view, so it's a little more obvious. If you click on that, it's going to open up that same dialog window where you can choose on the calendar the dates and then the time on where you want to look across, do your analysis. In the text box, you can see that if you start typing in a name, the program is going to give you suggestions for what to type in there based on what it knows it captured across the extraction. So it's really intuitive. It's kind of like Google does when you start searching on Google. Keep in mind, you can also access the text search by clicking on Control F on your keyboard, just like you would Control Find. And then if I type in the name freeze once again, and I click on OK, the nice thing about this search, if I do not select match whole word only and I hit OK, is it puts these wildcard characters, these asterisks on the front and back end of the word freeze. So it shows me all possible results of that name. This is nice if you have a partial name of a suspect or a nickname, or you don't have the full spelling. You can just put in the partial and it'll give you all possible options. So if I type in the name freeze, I have 56 artifacts with this suspect's name in it, and this is across the board. So if I choose this artifact here in the middle, you can see that this is an Apple contact. And it's going to populate that in the metadata on the details pane on the far right side. Name, a phone number, an email address, and maybe this is the suspect I'm looking for. This brings me to the next feature in Examine that I think is really powerful, is the ability to, what we call pivoting off metadata. You can create an advanced filter or a special search based on anything that you see in the metadata. So if I see a phone number that's of interest to me or an email address, I can say, hey, wait a minute, I want this program to tell me everything related, every artifact that has this phone number in it. So if you do a right click on the metadata, anything in the metadata, this could be a ladder long to do a geographical search. It could be a name, a phone number, and then basically you can create since I clicked on the phone number, it says, do you want to create a phone number filter? And I'm going to do that. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to put it in a new tab. And it's going to open up and populate a new tab for me, specifically targeting that phone number and looking at the data that has that phone number in it. So in this example, it only has that phone number in one place. So that's the result it gives me. But had I had that phone number all over the board, it would have shown me a lot of artifacts that have that phone number in it. So keep that in mind. Definitely don't forget to be able to do those specialized searches off the metadata. At this point, I'm going to talk about the very, very top menu of this program. So 3 icons over from the very top, you have the ability to import into Examine. You can import binary files. You can import call data records. And you can also import UFED files. So historically, if you have a lot of UFED files and you want to bring this into Examine because you like the way this program operates and you want to look at XRY files and UFED files together, you can easily do that. So you just select import UFED and we'll convert the file to XRY, and then you'll be able to look at that and cross-analyze. If you guys use Ivy for vehicle forensics, we're the only partner they have that they can export out into the XRY format as well. So you could potentially drop in vehicle data in here, UFED files, XRY files, any binaries, CDRs, all of that data sources, you can drop into Examine and do your analysis. On the far right of the top menu, we have the help file. And the help file is now in an HTML format. It's no longer PDF. So it makes it easier to navigate. If I click on the help file, it's going to launch a window up for me. And you can see that you can search through this HTML. You can also, we have training videos within this help file that you can watch. So you can expand. There's a video here for just getting started with Examine for options and settings. So if you want to, maybe you want to change the reporting features and how the reports look, there's a video for that. There's a video here for importing into a case, kind of what we hit on earlier, just a little more detailed. You can expand these videos out, and then you can play these videos very easily. So it's kind of free training videos. We also have a 2-hour free Examine training on our main website, msab.com. It's a free training. Anybody can take it. It's a 2-hour on-demand type deal where you can familiarize yourself or others with how Examine operates. On the top of this help file, you can also go into specific questions based on, maybe you're looking at filtering, how to do filters, how to apply tags, how to do exports, how to import. A lot of options here. Just take a look at our new HTML help file because I think it makes your life a lot easier. A lot of really good information here. It's easier to navigate, it's easier to search. Aside from that, we also have the what's new little dialog box. It's going to tell you what's been changed. This is the stuff that we're covering today, mainly dynamic counting of artifacts, password artifacts filter, custom date and time ranges, quick views. It talks about our ability to export drone, the flight paths into Google Earth. And then there's the next one that I'm going to hit on in this session, which is how to capture screen videos within Examine. Next to the help file in the upper right, you've got the capture video option. And this allows you to open up our video capture system. And I'm going to move this over to this screen. This is really easy to operate. All you do is target what you want to show on the screen. You can expand the window out. It does not recapture audio, just a live feed of what you're recording. And then you can start the recording of any of the analysis that you're doing. It's going to store this video file in your XRY case folder for you. So when it comes time for court and prosecution, it's already there for you. You don't have to find it again and then put it in the right place. It's going to put it in the XRY case folder, and it's going to be there for you. So hopefully that will make your life easier as well, being able to capture videos of your analysis to make a compelling argument. Close that out. Up here in the middle of the top menu, there's a drop down next to the time normalization, and that is the option to bring in that known data. Remember, we talked about the known data earlier in the session. On the customer portal, you want to download the known data library, and then you can actually tell Examine to exclude the known data. So put those stock images out of your way. That's for Android. It will get rid of some of the excess. We can also group duplicate artifacts. So if you bring in a UFED file and an XRY file, you dump the same phone with both tools, and you want to see, the differences, you can actually group the duplicates to make your life easier there. Quick views is right next to the duplicate artifacts, and this is manageable. So we talked about this earlier. You can create your own quick view if you know that you want to reuse search criteria in your analysis. Maybe you see the WhatsApp platform used quite a bit in your investigations, or maybe you see another application and you want a quick view for that application. Well, I'll show you how I would create that. So first, I would actually go back to the Start tab, and I would launch a new window with all artifacts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a filter here. So we have our default filters on the left-hand side, but don't forget that there's a plus icon here next to the filters, and there's a bunch of different options that we want you to use. So you can do a filter for applications. You can do a filter for deleted artifacts, for hash values, if you want to import your own hash values and cross-reference that to your extractions. A word list, if you have a watch list that you want to apply, you can do that as well. So there's a lot of filters in Examine that you should familiarize yourself with that you can operate. For the example I talked about with creating a quick view for, let's say, WhatsApp, I want to create a filter for applications. And then you can see that this list populates in the filters pane, and I have all of the applications that were residing on those devices. We will not put an application in the list if it does not have data in it, because that's a waste of time. So what we'll have here is you can search down in the list of apps, and I can say, all right, show me what's on WhatsApp. I'm going to choose WhatsApp from the filter, and now I have applied that filter. I have 64 artifacts on WhatsApp across all of these extractions. If you want to remind yourself what's included in this extraction, click on the little briefcase icon here, and it'll tell you that I'm looking at all these exhibits combined. And I can remove those just by simply unchecking them. So I have 64 artifacts, and now maybe I want to reuse this quick view in the future. I don't want to have to recreate this WhatsApp quick view. All you need to do is go up to quick views at the top, and then now that I've applied that filter, I can save this as WhatsApp. Well, I misspelled, but I hit enter. So you've got a WhatsApp quick view. All right, and then that's always going to appear in your list of the start screen. So if I go back to the start screen, now you can see that WhatsApp quick view here on the right-hand side. If I go back to the quick views, and maybe I've created a quick view that I think someone else would find advantageous, all you need to do is unselect all of these. I'm going to select to the left of the little person icon there for WhatsApp quick view, and I'm going to select on the 3 dots here, and I'm going to say export that quick view. You can import or export quick views to share them with other people that you work with. The last quick view that I'm going to show you real quick is a couple I'll show real quick. We have the geotagged artifacts as a quick view. So this is going to populate the map that shows you where we have geolocation points. So it toggles me over to the geographic view, and then it shows me a nice map. It shows me where I have plots of interest, and you can actually hover over the artifacts, and you can see what we're looking at. You can zoom all the way in to the street level, and then you can actually select the artifact of interest. Once you do that, it's going to tell you the file path. It's going to show you everything in the metadata, and then I can choose, in this case, it's a video that has geolocation data. You can play the video directly from Examine. So that's that quick view. The other quick view that I'll bring up is the connection view. This applies several filters, and it's going to show me everything in our link analysis, our connection view, which is really powerful. This can get pretty busy if you do too many selectors, but if you drill down to what's important to you, you can actually see the little web interlocking of the activity on the devices, who's talking to who. You can see how people are connected. If you're running a drug case, you can see who's kind of the leader based on the activity in this web view, and you can really drill down. This is included in your XRY licensing. This is not an add-on. This is already included. The other quick view that's of importance is going to be the chat view. The chat view gives you the ability to break down communications across the devices based on the application, the chat apps. So you can actually select the column headers and you can reorganize. So you can search by count. Let's say I want to look at this kick thread. Well, I choose that message thread, and then I have the details of the conversation here in the next column. And then if I choose an individual artifact, I have the metadata on the far right pane. We have the ability to do language translation in Examine. So you can either translate one artifact. So if I choose this message in the metadata, it's going to be a right click, always a right click in the metadata. I can actually select it and say translate only this artifact, or maybe I want to turn on sticky mode. We have a little pin drop here, and I want to highlight 4 or 5 artifacts or a whole message thread, and maybe it's in Spanish and I want to translate it to English. Well, then I just go ahead, highlight a bunch of those. I right click on the text in the metadata, translate, and this time I would choose all selected. So therefore it would translate all of those artifacts. The translation license is an extra, but reach out to me. Happy to set you up with one to try it out for a while, complimentary, to see if it's effective and it makes your life easier. So we're always building those types of capabilities into the tool. I believe that covers most of the big developments in XRY and Examine. Hopefully you found this really informative, and talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.